Hey everybody, today I am going to be going over the Microkorg 2 and making a sound on it, and hopefully if we have time then make a beat with the sound that we make. So just to start off, we are in the techno trance zone. Doesn't really matter. You could switch to any of these and you'll, under the user preset here, which you can access via the bank, you'll have 8 presets that you can mess with. As you can hear, we have a pretty simple INIT program. You have access to 3 different oscillators and a noise. In this case, this thing is also multi-timbral. I talked about this in the last video. And during that video, I really didn't know too much about it. I've had it a little bit longer now, week and a half, and I'm pretty much locked in on keeping it because it's just a super light travel synth that can be portable via some AA batteries. 8 voices, multi-timbral. I like this thing because it's so fast to start and make a sound. When I go into the, kicked off my mic. So when I start off with making a noise here, I start with deciding how many timbres I want. When you do multi-timbral and you have each one going with different, taking up a set of voices, you still have those 3 oscillators for each timbre, and also noise, and the envelopes, and the patches, and the LFOs, and even the arpeggiator, which you can have access 1 or 2. So I'll just very quickly go dual, have both timbres on, and just to show you, I'm only going to have the oscillator 1 volume going in each. You can change the volume of each oscillator under the mixer tab. So I'll go here, go to arpeggiator, and then I'll have timbre 2 having the arpeggiator on. So in the background, you can kind of hear. So that's the second timbre going actually. So if I were to go and change that timbre to like a sine wave, and then in timbre 1 have that be a triangle, then you can hear. Actually, and you can even go in and mix that first oscillator. So it's very subtle. In this case, I maybe add release. Let's go really low. So yeah, that's something like super quick thing that you could do with the multi-timbral thing. I'm going to go back and for this, I'm going to switch this back to just single timbre so we could just mess with that alone. So in the oscillator 1, we still have our triangle. And then I already went and under the envelope increased the release. And under mixer, I had already changed the volume of that first oscillator. So I'm going to bring that back to 100 here. And so that's already just kind of cool already. Obviously, this thing does way more, right? So under this amp, e.g. these are envelopes and filters, so you can go ahead and obviously mess with the attack and release, sustain, decay. If you press it twice, you can see up top here that there's 2 options for you. So you can mess with the filter and what that filter does as well. So when you go back home here, you can decide how that's going to go. The one thing that's cool about this is when you're in any of these menus here, you can just go and hit home and you'll come back here. But the best part that makes this kind of like a cool performative tool is that you can come in and switch all these up pretty fast. So if I wanted to, like for instance, tempo, I generally want to stay at the same tempo. So I'll go here and just like quickly go press the voice pitch assign, which has it at the top, and you can just change this to anything you want. So if I were to go and change this to under timbre 1, we can have it, let's pick something. Let's go like the timbre 1 filter drive here. So now that'll be represented here. I'll say filter drive. Say I have an arpeggio going. And now I can just mess with this. Let's bring this down 1 octave. So that's already, we have our kind of our bass sound on oscillator 1. I'm going to go into the mixer and start turning up oscillator 2. And I want to put a square wave at the back end of this to give it kind of like a little bit of a percussive kind of hit. So you have access to saw, square, triangle, sine. These are samples here, and you can choose between them. So actually, let me go back to the mixer, turn off oscillator 1, come back here, and then we'll just kind of come through some of these samples. And these are pitch sensitive too, but these will change in pitch. Yeah, so I think I wanted to make this a square, right? So I'll just have this go as square. So that's for our oscillator 2. Let's start bringing back our triangle and oscillator 1. And I'm going to bring down oscillator 2. So with that square, it's kind of like pretty heavy. So I want to actually go to, so we're going to go to the LFO here. And so for that second oscillator, that square, I want to have it not just constantly be going, and I want it kind of to change in volume a little bit. So in this case, we're going to stick with LFO1 here. And the cool thing about LFO1 is that compared to LFO2, 2 has a delay in its fifth slot. The fifth slot for LFO1 is smooth, which basically, because this thing doesn't have a sine wave under the LFO, it just says triangle, you can essentially smooth out your triangle wave to where it's pretty similar to a sine wave, or it's like a faux sine. What I'm changing here right now is the mode. So instead of a free where I just play with the, actually, you know what? I got to switch this first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this. These are the patch. So you have up to 6 mods that you can basically, you can send your kind of modifications to the LFO, right? So in this case, or actually to this pitch mod wheel too, which I'll show you right now. I have my LFO1, which is my source. The mod wheel here determines how much that modulation will come through. And in this case, it defaults by pitch. Since the intensity is pretty low, then you won't be able to tell. So actually I'll have that latch. And so this mod wheel will control how much of that's coming in, with the intensity typically being the max setting for the mod. I'm going to switch it to oscillator 2 and then have it go to oscillator 1, or actually oscillator 2 level. And this will be the volume, so we'll get that. So we'll come back in and we'll bring in, going back to the mixer, I'm going to start bringing oscillator 1 back. For patch 2, let's see, and it shows it here at the very top as well. So if I were to click through and you like look up here, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the nice thing is that if you are on 2 and you start bouncing around between the menus and you go back, it's going to drop back into 2. So you can really quickly access it all over again. Let's have something also happening to the oscillator 1. So in this case, we will go to oscillator 1. one thing that always sounds pretty cool is when you have the LFO mess a little bit with the filter drive. I'm going to have this going to LFO 2 so we can change it a little bit, and we'll have it be a slightly slower tempo, and also we'll make it a square instead. So, and the thing that's cool with this is that, so say you are running this and it's doing its you have a sound going and you're kind of like playing around with the cutoffs, messing with the release, filter drive, attack, if you have a general idea of what each of these things are going to do, you can very easily just hit and then start turning on that. It's not too dissimilar in like modulating, like plugging something in, like right, and then having it go, right? So now in LFO 2, I have the filter drive going up and down. Kind of annoying me with how high of a pitch it is, so I'm going to bring that down an octave too. Without, and I mean, at this point I could just like octave shift it down, but and that LFO 1 here is going a little fast for me, so I'm going to switch it to, that sounds a little nicer. And now, and also you can hear that filter cutoff is also pretty crazy. So I'm going to go back to the second patch here. So here you have like kind of a cool sound, and we have not touched any of the effects yet, which is crazy. So there's no reverb on there really. There's no delay. There's no modulate, no mods, which are like overdrive and stuff like that. So let's kind of get into that. In this case here, I'm going to go back. This filter drive thing still is like kind of crazy to me. So what I want to do actually is be able to come up with on the fly if I want that, how heavy I want that filter drive to come in as along with this intensity part here that we can play with. And so I'm going to actually assign it to the mod wheel. So this is with no modulation to the no auto modulation to the filter drive. And as I mess with the mod wheel, I can actually really intensify it. I don't think I would actually ever do that during a set or anything like that, unless you really wanted to change things up. So I'm going to go back and just bring it back down to a place where we like it. And I'm going to remove that mod wheel. Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's all right. Let's see here. So what I will do is let's go to the mixer and it's kind of, yeah, the triangle in the beginning sounds nice. That intensity for the oscillator 2 level is just going up like a little bit too much. And I kind of wanted to go down in volume instead of up, and to move a little bit slower. And honestly, I changed my mind. So go back to that patch 1, and instead of the oscillator 2 level going up and down, actually let's have it pan left and right instead. So timbre, pan. So unless you're wearing headphones, you probably won't be able to hear this, but think in this case, because I'm recording this mono too, that pan is not going to work out really well. So let's just switch it back. We're going to switch it back to the level. Cool. All right. So that's something. I promise we were going to get into this other stuff. I just keep I'm having too much fun actually. Okay. So now to turn on these mods, like Reverb, for instance, you have to hold this on off button and then tap this until that little light comes on. In this case, we are starting off with Hall. So let's just for the sake of, I'm going to arpeggiated E flat major 7 here. Let's go turn on, and then same thing, performative thing. You can mess with these, which is really nice, with all these settings without starting it up. So you can kind of like, you know, surprise people because you already know it's coming. So if I were to like make this super wet here and I start the reverb, you can kind of bring it in slowly. That hall reverb is pretty light though. I mean, but you know, a lot of people don't like it so far, what I've heard. But there are other ones, you know. So let's switch. The rim one's pretty. Or I'm sorry, spring. The spring reverb is kind of like, sounds more like a hall than a hall one does. And so there's all these cute little designs on here that can show you what's happening. Alright, so as this is going, I kind of want to show off, instead of going to oscillator 3, we're going to go straight to the noise oscillator. And under the mixer here, we're going to turn up the noise a little bit. So that noise one is like crazy. So why don't we go to our third patch, which we haven't used yet, and let's have the destination be the noise oscillator here. And in this case, we'll do the noise level. And we will come and connect that to LFO2. So we'll go back here. Thankfully, we just have to click back. It remembers where you last were. And we will have we'll have it be LFO2 here. And under mixer, I'm going to bring that noise really low. Kind of annoying. Let's bring that a little bit low. And under the noise, we're just going to go ahead and change the color of that too. Let's turn it up a little bit so we can hear it. Okay, turn it back down. And so that's just reverb. Let's add a mod now. So we got our chorus going. If you press mod again, you can go ahead and switch the second page. With this, I want to, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch. Lo-fi is kind of fun. This one started clipping the audio here. That's because of the saturation. I like the wow, the kind of flutter, because it shows a little needle here. I don't know if you can see it. And you can make it really wobbly. And it's kind of cute. Alright, so you can even change like the type of record too. 45. All right. One thing I noticed with lo-fi though is that if the wow is like, if there's too much flutter, it kind of just starts to get really out of tune for the most part. And so if I try to play this with something else that is in tune, like another synth or something, then it becomes pretty noticeable. This arpeggio on. Again, we're just doing the E flat major 7. You could alternatively do like a C major 7. Okay, so we're just doing a pretty basic major 7 chord. I think I showed this in the last video, but one thing that's really cool is that under the arpeggiator, actually let's turn this tempo down. Let's go 90. Right now I have it set to the BPM. 16 notes, and these are actually the steps in the arpeggiator. This actually works kind of better in a weird way when, well, I'll keep it at 90 and we'll switch this. So in this case, you can kind of perform these different steps, and this is pretty fun. I think it sometimes works best if you're using a different type of arpeggio mode. It's like random or something. Up is good, or if you add like second octaves, which you can do. So if you have this going and you're like combining this with another bass line or something, it's actually a pretty fun to mess around with your sounds. One thing that really is cool to mess with here is the gate time. Having this on the home screen for quick manipulation is actually really, really fun and easy. So again, we're going to go back to this where it says voice pitch, and go to assign. And I generally will keep the attack where it's at. Messing with the release and the filter drive are the fun things to mess with to me. So in this case, you can very easily go to ARP and change the gate, or have the gate be right here. These are kind of hard to switch sometimes. Okay, so there's the gate. Let's do a different chord. Let's do this. And change the arpeggio away from up, and we'll go to, we'll do diverge this time. And we're also going to change the time here. Let's make it slower, so it's not as annoying. Too fast sometimes. All right. And so as this is going, you can really get your ambience going. I love having that release kind of slow. And remember, we still have, I think we only use 3 patches. So if I were to go to the, let's see, did we use 3? Oh, I didn't even turn on, I forgot to connect the noise level on the LFO too. So we didn't even get a chance to really hear that. So I'm gonna go back to the mixer. And so we have that noise coming in now. Very subtly. I'm gonna go to the noise patch in here. And now we get that little light wave noise. Actually, I will show. So that noise is coming in. Coming in a little fast, actually. There we go. It's a little bit percussive, which is nice. All right. Let's go back to the mixer and turn these slowly back on. And before we forget, remember we're in user 2. If you switch out of this at any point during this whole period and you did not save, then your patch is gone, essentially. So I'm gonna bring the cutoff back here, test it really quick. That noise is way too loud now, so I'm gonna go back to the mixer and turn that down. Bring the oscillator levels of these a little bit higher. I'm going to go ahead and save this INIT program. You can change all the parameters here for the sake of time. I'm just going to go ahead and execute. If you're finding that when you're playing stuff and your loop is a little bit too loud, you can hold down the setting B and you can lower the play level. So you can kind of mix it a little bit. Again, I would definitely use like an external looper for this. I would not use this as your main looper unless you're just like outside and you're messing around with sounds and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to remember this and like use it later. But I highly recommend using an external looper because you can't save these loops yet. I don't know, hopefully, this thing obviously has some storage space, but I don't know if we will be able to eventually save loops. So in this, I'm finding that noise level is getting kind of distracting. And it's still going even with my noise level all the way down here. So I'm gonna have to come over here and just go to patch 3. And see that noise level? I'm gonna turn that down a lot. So we can have that going in. If I switch to another patch, again, I went into this with another video, it's gonna switch and pitch it differently to your other patch. So I made this one earlier, and it's another arpeggiator thing. But so if you wanted to not have that happen, you could go back to your other patch, hold tempo lock down, and then keep that locked. And then switch. Or if you would just want to completely switch to another bass, I have a few favorites here. Oh, so much better. I got that bass line in, but it definitely is not going to loop right. Which is another reason why I can't use this really, because I use the deluge for something like that, for stuff like this, and it kind of puts it's like a cheat code, it's easy mode. But yeah, I mean, just to show you like really quickly, you know, making a track or making a sound on this, it's pretty easy. I mean, remember, all we did is essentially, and this is like the short version, is I'm gonna go back and switch to the user, to what we made, and pause this. That noise one is like really loud. Yeah, creating these kind of evolving paths. In this case, the volume is like getting kind of nuts. But what we did was that we started with an INIT patch. We changed oscillator 1 to a triangle, oscillator 2 to a square. We pitched them both down 1 octave. We went to the mixer. We didn't use oscillator 3 at all. Envelope. We messed with the release, the attack sustain really quick. LFOs, we used just 2. It'd be nice if there were more, but just to have access. I mean, you can route things to other places on here. I only did the LFOs for now, and then yeah, just messed with our levels for Timbre 1, our filter drive, and the noise level. and mod delay reverb. We messed with those a bit. We chose a nice ping pong, a spring reverb, and we used the lo-fi mod, and that was it. Okay, so I thought, why not get outside and use that patch that we just made in a nice outdoor setting and be inspired. I'm here at Stern Grove Park. I've actually never been here when it hasn't been a show, so yeah, just gonna go ahead and mess around and see what we can make here, what we make with what we just made. So it's actually pretty sunny, so I can kind of see the screen but not see. That cut was too fast. It would have been nice. One thing I wish you could have on the looper is a little bit of delay. So when you cut it off, it'll keep going. But again, it's just for messing with ideas. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed me taking it out of the room just to hear something you could make with a patch that you make pretty fast on here. But yeah, again, I'm really liking this thing. I am maybe going to return it, but not because I don't want it. I'm actually going to rebuy it from another dealer, and I'm not sponsored or anything like that. But some of the dealers come with a carry bag, and this one didn't. So I kind of want that carry bag because bringing it around, especially with how light it is, because I mean this thing is it's probably my lightest synth. It almost feels as light. It's not much heavier than a Deluge, the Deluge itself. So it's just a little bit bigger. And that's not a knock on the build quality or anything. It is what it is, and I love it. But yeah. Anyway, thanks again for hanging out. See you.